Back on the SportsMax zone, an 11th Test century from captain Craig Brathwaite was not enough to prevent the West Indies from sliding to defeat against World Test Championship leaders Australia on the final day of the first Test at Perth Stadium. Unlike in so many overseas clashes with Test cricket big guns, the Windies did not roll over and die, but were ultimately beaten by 164 runs before tea on the fifth and final day. Let's have a look at the scorecard. Yeah, the Aussies in the first innings, 598 for 4 declared. Maurice Labuschagne, 204. And the West Indies replied with 283. Australia decided not to enforce the follow-on. Batted second innings, 182 for 2. Labuschagne, 104 not out. So a double century followed by 100 there. And the West Indies, 283 all out in their second innings. Craig Brathwaite, 110. Nathan Land, 6 for 128. And Nathan Land is now the 9th wicket-taking bowler in the history of Test cricket, 9th on the list of all-time wicket-takers. Now, this was the first Test for the West Indies in Australia since January 2016, and they were seeking their first win down under since January 1998. As Ricardo Chambers reports, the Caribbean men entered the final day with a slim chance of saving the Test match.
The first 4 days of this Test match here in Perth at Optus Stadium.
West Indies resumed the final day on 3 for 192, 306 runs away from an unlikely victory in Perth. Captain Craig Brathwaite restarted on 101 alongside Kyle Mayers, the left-hander driving exquisitely for 2 boundaries off Mitchell Starc.
That will feel really good. It was a genuine half volley.
Off-spinner Nathan Lyon showed signs of what was to come, Brathwaite edging along the ground for a boundary. But Mayers wasn't so fortunate.
And Nathan Lyon gets his man.
The left-hander gone for 10 after making just 1 in the first innings. Brathwaite, though, was not afraid to take on Lyon, spanking him down the ground for 4. But the Aussie would have the final say.
Brathwaite on his way.
The Windies captain contributing 110 from 188 deliveries, having struck 13 fours in his 311 minutes for what was his 11th Test ton. His dismissal at 5 for 212, breaking the back of the Windies lineup. And before lunch, the Aussies secured 2 more wickets. First, Jason Holder for 3, the right-hander well caught by Steve Smith at slip off the bowling of Travis Head. And then a much more comfortable catch taken by Usman Khawaja of Josh Hazlewood to dismiss Joshua Da Silva for 12. The West Indies 7 for 233 at that stage. A fabulous 82-run partnership on either side of lunch between Roston Chase and Alzarri Joseph gave the Caribbean men hope of at least avoiding defeat. Joseph was especially entertaining, smashing 4 fours and 3 sixes in his 43 of 72 deliveries. The Aussies needing the part-timer Travis Head to get the breakthrough.
Oh, it's gone through. Can you believe it?
Joseph fell 7 short of his half-century, but Roston Chase got his.
But a well-deserved 50.
The right-hander eventually scoring 55, his 10th Test half-century and first since July 2020. But he couldn't save the Windies, brilliantly caught in the deep by Mitchell Starc.
Starc with a diving effort, gets the hands underneath it. Lyon gets a 5th. 6.
Lyon doing the final rights.
Bowled him! Lyon finishes with 6.
The 35-year-old ending with 6 for 128. West Indies losing by 164 runs.
Thanks, Ricardo. Let's hear now from both captains.
The game, relentless, just really put some overs into their bowlers, and then, backed up even, when I was down the way, the other quick stood up. Nathan Lyon loves bowling here, so fantastic all-round performance.
Well, obviously, disappointed, with the loss, but, must commend the batters, for the fight they showed. I think in the first innings, we gave away some wickets at times where we should have batted a little younger. But, good fight. Obviously, we really got to sit down as a team and as a bowling unit especially and come out how we are going to get 20 wickets.
Yeah, both captains there, Craig Brathwaite, and before that, Pat Cummins, who is hurt and set to be out of the Adelaide Test match, which is going to be a day-night affair starting later this week. We now get the thoughts of cricket commentator Nikhil Uttamchandani. Nikhil, a lot of credit given to the West Indies team for showing a lot of fight here against a really outstanding Australia team. Do you share that view, or do you feel that there's more the West Indies could have done here?
Definitely share that view, Lance. I think when you look at going into this series, not many would have had the West Indies to last the 5 days, but even more than that, compete at the level which they did. And I think even though, yes, it's their first loss now in Test cricket of the year, when I look at the bigger picture in terms of going into that second Test, they have a lot of positives to carry, especially with the bat in hand. And that was the biggest question going into the series. I think Tagenarine Chanderpaul, what he's brought to the top of the innings, has really helped solidify that top four, which has been in question for a while. And of course, we will talk about the captain, Craig Brathwaite, a bit later on. But I think that top four, definitely Blackwood with his sort of resolve, Shamar Brooks coming in and looking good for 2 starts. I think that it will help their confidence. But to me, if you look at things that they need to improve on, it has to be the bowling. And they have to be a bit more potent, the West Indies. Just 6 wickets taken in the match on a surface which did assist the bowlers at times, had that green grass cover. I thought it was a good Test match wicket on both sides of things. But I think the West Indies definitely, if they want to have a chance of winning or drawing this next game, they're going to need their bowlers to step up in a big way.
Yeah, and you know what? When you look at you said the bowling needs to be better, but West Indies has always had the criticism of having trouble facing good quality spin bowling. Nathan Land was brilliant with 6 wickets there. So although the Aussie pace bowling attack is probably more revered, we saw a situation here where it's Nathan Land that did more of the damage.
Yeah, it's been not only against spin, but off spin especially. The West Indies is currently ranked last in terms of teams against off spin, in terms of those Test playing nations. So that has been a massive concern. And I think Nathan Lyon, well, you look at his 3 games he's now played at Perth, 22 wickets and an average of 11. On a surface which I thought was different to the first 2 that he played on. This one didn't spin as much, but he's just so meticulous and so good at using the rough outside of the batters, off stump, especially on that day 5, that wicket to get Craig Brathwaite with the change of pace. And I think he's the best off spin in the world by a long way. And just going above Ravi Chandran and Ashwin, that's going to be a good battle for years to come. But that will be something that I think the West Indies need to figure out how they go about things in the second Test. I thought they attacked him well in the first innings, but as the pitch weared and things got a bit more favourable for him, they really had no answer. So I think the GOAT, as they call him, just continuing right where he left off from their last Test.
Yeah, and Nikhil, something that really worried me after this first Test, injury concerns. We had Kemar Roach, we know the concussion issue with Nkrumah Bonner. Marquino Mindley comes in as, of course, a replacement for the injury players. How concerned are you about the injuries?
I think very concerned, especially to lose, I think Kemar Roach would, for me, be the most important. I know his Test record away from home is not that great, averaging over 30, but I just think what he brings to this team, his ability against the left-handers, he's been excellent. Australia open with 2 in Usman Khawaja and David Warner. And he did have a few spells in that game where he really was unlucky and really could have had 1 or 2 or even 3 wickets. So to lose him and then you expose Anderson Phillip, who's been around the Test team but has only played 1 Test, or even a Marquino Mindley yet to play Test cricket, into a place like Australia, I think it's going to be a huge, huge task, a day-night game where Australia have been dominant and the West Indies have struggled in the past. So I really hope for the West Indies' sake that Roach can recover. In terms of the other changes, well, obviously, Nkrumah Bonner, we're not sure if he will recover, but I think Shamar Brooks showed us in that 33 in the first innings and even in the 11 in the second. He's been up to the boil in terms of facing the pace, and he looks really strong against the quicker delivery, but he just needs to sort of bring it all together. He's been in and around the team, hasn't had that consistent run. I think this is a golden opportunity. He's called in as a concussion sub. This is an opportunity he has to really make a difference and cement his place in that top order, because I think a few positions up for grabs. The way Roston Chase batted there at 8, remember this is a man that's got 500s in Test cricket and also batted at 4 in the past. So listen, I think it's a big opportunity for the West Indies in this second Test, and the way that they fought in that last game will give them hope that even if they don't win this game, they can draw it and get some points on the World Test Championship table.
Yeah, quick comment on Marquino Mindley. When you saw him being called up, what do you think about him?
I think it was probably expected. For me, it would have been between him and Jeremiah Louis out of the Red Islands, but mainly you look at the red ball season he had for Jamaica. 13 wickets in the 5 matches, averaged 18, and he's had a good record in first-class cricket overall. He's been around for a long time, 42 matches, 103 wickets, average of 24, but he played in the Bangladesh A series a couple months ago, which really dictated to me that the West Indies see something in him and they think he's going to be one for the future. He's that type of skiddy bowler, and I think with the pink ball, day and night conditions, a bit of extra dew, he could be, a bit dangerous. But I do think if Roach isn't fit, they're going to go to Anderson Phillip. He deserves the opportunity. He's played just the one test against Bangladesh, and he's been around with this team now for the last calendar year. So I would like to see him, bit of extra pace, and yeah, I mean, it'll be a young attack, inexperienced, but nothing to lose.
Yeah, you mentioned earlier on that you wanted to talk a little bit more about Craig Brathwaite, Nikhil, because he's a pretty solid player. He's been having a tremendous 2022 season, 82 batting average for the 2022 calendar year, and only players like Azam, I think Shandamal, and maybe Khawaja are ahead of him in batting average in 2022. How good was he in this test match?
Amazing, Lance. And I think something about captaincy has done Craig Brathwaite a world of good. You see so many players around the world suffering with that weight of captaincy on their shoulders. But the way this man has just conducted himself at the crease. I mean, you look at his numbers. Yes, you mentioned 2022, but I look at the fact that without the captaincy, he's averaged 34 in his test career. Now with it, he's averaged 37 and counting. He continues to increase. And Australia, one of the toughest places to bat in the world for batters of all quality and all class. He now in 4 test matches has got over 400 runs, an average of 58. His second highest in his career. That 100 was his first, and he's also got 350s to go with it. I just think he holds such an important key for the West Indies. They'll need some help from the middle into lower order. But if this man continues to churn out the runs that he did, I mean, Australia with this world-class attack, you hear them speaking about Craig Brathwaite. They even had no answers for him. It took 2 pitches to dismiss him. First, from Pat Cummins in that first innings, one that just went straight on with off the seam, and then Nathan Lyon, a quicker delivery that just beat him for pace. But the concentration that Craig Brathwaite has and is able to put forward in test cricket with the captaincy on his shoulder and spending so much time in the field, I think goes unnoticed, and he's definitely up there for me with one of the best in the world. Okay, Nikhil, thanks. We're going to leave it there, and we'll talk again later in the week, I believe. Cheers, man. Thanks a lot. Okay, so the West Indies getting ready for the second test. It's a day-night test, and one of the warm-up matches they played was pink ball day-night as well. So hopefully that gave them a good preparation for this second test match. We go to break, and we'll be back with more on The Zone after this.